Hello, everyone. My name is Wendy Saminsky, and I'm the Senior Vice President for Conferences and Events at AdvaMed. I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us for today's webinar on how to secure the meetings you want at the MedTech Conference, which will take place September 24th through the 26th at the Pennsylvania Convention Center in Philadelphia. For our guests today that will be attending the conference for the first time this fall, the MedTech Conference is the premier industry gathering for the medical device community. The conference attracts 3,000 attendees from 30 different countries and features world-class speakers, diverse programming, and a dynamic exhibit floor where you can see the latest and greatest devices. Today's webinar will show you how you can get the most of your conference experience by easily and efficiently managing your schedule and outreach using MedTech Connect. During our demo, you'll learn how to build a robust company profile that clearly articulates your interests, whether you're searching for potential partners, investors, or simply reaching out to connect and strengthen existing relationships. You'll also learn how to use MedTech Connect's powerful search features to identify companies and attendees of interest to you. Once you've identified companies you'd like to meet with, you'll see how to send and accept meeting requests. And one of the most powerful features, in my opinion, you'll learn about our auto scheduler. Instead of proposing times to meet with potential partners, MedTech Connect does the work for you. Based on your availability and theirs, the system selects a time and location that works best for both parties and shows you where you need to go and when. So no more back and forth trying to figure out a time that works. Another new feature this year is the Company Message Center. You'll see during the demo how your company will be able to organize all of your meetings in one place. You'll be able to view your colleagues' calendar and request their participation in meetings they should attend. But let's stop talking about what you can do and start showing you how to do it. It's my pleasure to introduce my webinar co-host, Willie Reeves. Willie is the Director of Partnering and Product Services at Bio, and not only is he a great friend, he's also the foremost expert on the MedTech Connect software that you'll see today. Hi, Willie.
Hi, Wendy, and thanks so much for that wonderful and super warm introduction. I'm really looking forward to sharing with the audience today more information about MedTech Connect and how they can use the platform to make the most of their experience at the AdvaMed conference next month. So let's talk about what's new. First is company-to-company requests. So any and all access participants from your company that have registered for the conference can review your meeting requests. So that eliminates the problem of potential meetings getting trapped in any one person's inbox. There's a new user experience, a new look and feel with streamlined navigation, more powerful search filters, all of this and more to help you make the most of your experience. And as Wendy just mentioned, and we can't drive this point home enough, the auto-scheduled meetings. So you no longer have to message back and forth, proposing times, changing schedules. The scheduling program will find mutually acceptable times and give you the appropriate time and location. And this platform allows small companies even the possibility of meeting with some of the big players in the industry. The right people are in the right location at the right time. Large companies sometimes have one coordinator or manager kind of looking through requests. So the person whose name you write may or may not respond directly, but because of the company-to-company request system, that company is able to assign the most appropriate party for all of those meeting requests. And Wendy, did you want to talk about some of the opportunities on company-to-company outreach?
I just cannot say enough about how beneficial it is to be able to have transparency into your organization and everyone that your company is meeting with on site. I think it's very difficult when you have a company that sends a large presence to an event to understand who each individual might be meeting with. And it's usually difficult to figure out how to successfully manage someone else's calendar to make sure that they're available for meetings that are critical that they participate in. So having this company message center and transparency into your company's delegates and their calendar, I think is going to be a really pivotal change this year for our attendees.
Absolutely, and we're really excited to go through just momentarily a live demo of the system for you. But before we do that, a quick mention here that we will have a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. So if you would like to submit a question, or if you come up with a question at any point during the webinar, you can type it into your questions box in your GoToWebinar panel and submit those questions to the speakers, and we'll be reviewing them toward the end of the webinar. Also, a recording and slides will be distributed within a few days to everyone who registered for the webinar. So even if you or one of your colleagues were unable to attend, you can still receive the materials to make sure that you're best prepared to take advantage of MedTech Connect when the system opens.
Great, let's see it.
All right, with that, let's dive right in. So here's my MedTech Connect page here. This is the login page. So I would recommend once you get your login link to just bookmark it there. And Wendy is so great that she's actually going to allow me to impersonate her and pull up her profile for MedTech Connect. So let's log in.
Now, impersonating me, that's pretty great. So if I have an assistant that wants to log in using my credentials and manage my calendar, they can do that, right?
Right, Wendy, that's something that they can definitely do, and we know that that's an important functionality for a lot of people who have other folks in their team who may be managing things for them. That's definitely something that you can do with the MedTech Connect system.
Great.
So once you log in, you'll see this purple background here, and this lets you know that you are inside the MedTech Connect system. So this is the home page. Up here at the top, we have the global navigation bar. So this bar will always be present to help you get quickly from area to area within the system. On the left-hand side here, we have an overview of your company's information. For example, let's say that I wanted to click on my, parentheses, Wendy's, delegate profile and read a little bit more information. You can simply click here and, for example, add in more details about any of your colleagues. And I'd really recommend that you or someone on your team take a moment to at least add in a job title, perhaps a little bit under area of expertise, to help other attendees find you within the system. Here in the center panel, oh yes, thanks, Wendy. Here in the center panel, you have an overview of your calendar. So for example, it looks like Wendy's got 4 available time slots right now, and we'll take a look at the calendar more in detail a bit later. But also here, you can go directly to your calendar or download it in a number of convenient formats or print your calendar or that of your company as well, right from the homepage. And on the right side panel, you have an overview of your company's message center. So these numbers are small right now because MedTech Connect has not quite launched. The system is going to be opening on August 13th. But the numbers for each company will be growing as time goes on and more people are in the system engaging and becoming active. And also over here on the right side, we have a customer support panel. So if you need help, you have a question, you have a problem, you can always reach out to our support team Monday through Friday, and we will be happy to give you a hand and help you get to what you need to get to. There's also links here for video and PDF tutorials in case you forget how to do something or need a little bit of help with the feature. And we also have a quick search bar. So if you want to jump right in and start searching for companies, you can do that as well directly from the homepage. Now let's take a look at the profile section. So when I click on profile, I'm going to bring up my own company's profile. Again, I am being Wendy right now, so I'm bringing up the AdvaMed company profile. And the profile is really where a very significant part of your value proposition, just about all of your value proposition, is going to take place. So this is an internal view, so only you and your colleagues will have this view of your profile. Here at the top, you can upload your company's logo, and just like LinkedIn or anywhere else, you're more likely to be seen, to be clicked on, to be viewed if you've uploaded images, if you've uploaded headshots for your delegates. So we definitely encourage you to do that. There's a publication right here. Your company's profile is published by default. If you want to be hidden for a moment, perhaps to figure out some wording on your profile, you can unpublish, but make sure that you publish so that you're viewable on the system. Here, there are a whole host of different categories and descriptions and things to help you really solidify and exemplify your value proposition to other companies. We understand that the medtech industry is intersectional, which is why you can select multiple company types here in the company type selector. We would definitely recommend filling in a succinct brief description, and this is especially important because the brief description is what appears in the search results when you are looking at other companies in the search section, which we'll come back to shortly. You can include a more detailed description here, fill in your company's financial information, company size, and we would definitely recommend that you also include your country and state if applicable, because some companies like to target geographically.
So
Looking here,
Lily, under
mhm.
delegate, how is that information populated? What is this every employee of AdvaMed?
Great question, Wendy. So this section over here on the right side with delegates is showing all of the AdvaMed delegates or the delegates from your company who have registered with full access for the conference. So these are all of the people who have access to the MedTech Connect partnering system for the conference.
Oh, that's perfect.
And if, for example, let's say that you need to edit a piece of information on a colleague's profile, you can also do that here by clicking on your colleague's name, and you can fill in information for them, uploading their headshot, putting in their background, area of expertise, etc.
So that's really great for companies that have one central person that's managing their experience on site to have that ability to go in and update everyone's profiles. Because sometimes I know that there are executives that just don't have a lot of time to do that for themselves.
Absolutely, Wendy. And I like to think of it as kind of an equal opportunity, equal access sort of system. So once you are in, you have the same level of viewability and access as everyone else within your organization to edit the company and delegate profiles. So also here in the center, we have a panel where you can upload assets, services, market products. So if your company, for example, develops surgical lasers or intraocular lenses or whatever it may be, definitely be sure to add all of those things into your product section. And then here on the right side as well, there's a management section that you can include. And this is a free text. So if you would like to indicate here who the management is in your company, you're free to do that as well. Now, a couple of quick notes on the profile that are very important. We really recommend that you not gloss over the profile. Don't just take 3 minutes to throw some info in to get it out of the way. What you write here makes your company searchable or not. Just like Google, the more of the appropriate keywords that you have when you're searching for something, the more likely the page that you want is going to pop up. So we would definitely recommend that you take some time, review your company profile, put in as much information as you can, really make it robust, because remember, this is your platform for MedTech Connect for identifying those partners. And down here at the bottom, there's one more section that's important to mention, the content section. So here you can upload a variety of different types of content. If you have one-pagers, pitch decks, presentations, any of this sort of information, you can upload those things right onto your profile and even attach them to meeting requests. So as you're creating content here and uploading things, perhaps you have a one-page summary of your company that you want to include on some meeting request. It makes it a snap to do that. Just keep in mind that all of these pieces of content are publicly viewable on your profile. All right, now let's move over to the search section. So MedTech Connect's powerful search functionality allows you to do a lot of different things, and this is really where the magic happens. First, here you've got a selector bar, so you can search by companies, delegates, assets, market products, or services. And it makes it easy at a glance to see all of the different great companies that are attending the MedTech conference. But don't just stop at the basic search, which is by itself a valuable tool. In addition to all of these fields here, we also have a really powerful advanced search section with great tools inside. For example, one question that I know for bio events, Wendy, we've often heard, and it may well be the same with MedTech, is how do you identify just the companies that are new? Let's say I log in every Monday, it's part of my weekly pattern, logging in to partnering and seeing what's going on. If you want to isolate the new companies, you can just go down here to company registration date. And for example, just select the companies that have registered since the past week to save you time on not needing to look through the same results over and over again.
That is such a time saver.
Well, that's, I think, why you transitioned over to this newer and more powerful system. We really want to make it as simple as possible and as approachable as possible for people to follow the steps that they need to get the meetings that they need at the MedTech conference. You can also drill down by a whole host of other things, and I won't go into extreme depth here, but company types, whether the companies are private or public, their geographic specifications, and then there are a variety of other filters here across the top, and then you can combine across tabs as well. Also important to note is the market products over here. So for example, you can look at a variety of different types of devices, delivery, dental, diagnostic, hospital hardware, and more to drill down to those specific types of products that you're most interested in identifying. In addition, there are some other helpful features here at the top. Let's say that you've customized a particular search that you like to run regularly, but you don't want to have to run through the filters every time to do it. That's no problem. I've saved a few searches here already, for example, for private medical device companies. So the ownership is private and they're the type of medical device. So I can just click on that saved search here and it will just run it with all of my saved settings down here to make it easy for me to run through those things again. And then you can always save a new search at any time right here, give it a name, and then you have quick access to your saved searches here or as well from the homepage.
So that's a very helpful tool for companies that may have more than one objective at the MedTech conference, to have that ability to have multiple searches that they can run at any time.
Absolutely. And you can always edit those searches, Wendy, and add more and make it a snap for you to really, for example, you could make a search filter that combines only companies that have registered in the past 5 days with all of these other criteria to give you exactly the list of companies that you're looking for.
Perfect.
And there's also a handy Excel export feature here as well. So once you've got the search results that you want, just click this button and you'll get a handy dandy list with tons of information to help you review all of the company assets, market products, etc. offline.
So that makes sense in case I have people that at my office might be contributing to the decisions on whether or not we meet with another organization, being able to take a print out of some of the possibilities into a meeting without everyone being in the system at the same time. So that's a really helpful tool as well.
Absolutely. And we found that a lot of companies like to download lists and kind of share them around. Maybe they're using a SharePoint or something like that, highlighting these companies seem to be of interest, et cetera, and then coming back into the system, taking those decisions and acting quickly and efficiently upon them. Speaking of identifying companies quickly and efficiently, once you have found a company that appears to be of interest, you can just click on their company profile and all of their information will appear here. You can directly request a meeting with that company and view all the great information that they have. And once the system launches on August 13th, there will be a delegate section at the bottom that will include the names and information of all of the participants from that particular company. If you,
so that's great. That's almost like access to a registration list. So for people that are interested in finding out who's already planning to attend the MedTech conference, this gives you an ability to see who has full access and is already registered.
Absolutely, Wendy, absolutely. And so it's really a great tool on multiple fronts, from seeing who's attending, who the movers and shakers are, and who those companies are that you may want to do business or potentially deals with. In addition to identifying companies directly in the search by using the New Request button here to send a new request, you can also use the Global New Request button here at the top. Let's say that I know a particular sponsor company, for example, that I may want to have a meeting with. So I will enter in their name here, enter in a title and a message, and we'll talk more in detail about this, but this is where you really want to be targeted and specific. The least useful thing to put in the title of a meeting request is meeting request. Similar to how no one wants to get an email in their Outlook that's titled email, you want to really use this space in your title to customize. Why should that company want to open your message when they're scrolling through their message center? Some companies have dozens or hundreds of messages that they may be reviewing, so you'll want to use a compelling title and message that's tailored and targeted to that company to encourage them to open your particular request. Once you filled out this information and selected the appropriate parties from your company to participate, whoever's logged in will be the default participant. You can just click send request and off that request goes to that company. Couldn't be easier.
So since this is a new feature this year that is company-to-company communication, what if there's a particular individual that I want to send a request to? So I would like to send a meeting request to our steering committee chair. How can I actually say specifically in the message who I'd like to meet with from that company?
You certainly can. So once you have pulled up particular profile, let's say that you may not know exactly the person that you're looking for. If you click on the company's profile and go to the bottom, again, once the system launches on the 13th, you'll be able to see all of their names. You can just insert that name here in the message body and say, dear such and such. Or if you already know that person's name, you can certainly include that information in your message as well. But it's
That's
important
great.
to
So
know.
if there,
Sure, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so if there is a high-level person that I'm hoping to meet with while I'm at the conference, but perhaps they're not in the system yet, as long as there's anyone from the company that is checking that inbox, that message will make its way to the desired recipient.
Absolutely, Wendy. So, right, perhaps you're looking for the Vice President of Research and Development, but he or she hasn't registered yet from the company in question, but they have a whole host of colleagues who have. Then this request is going to go to those colleagues, and they can select the most appropriate person for you to meet with should they decide to accept that meeting request.
That's great.
And then here again, that content that we talked about earlier in the asset, market, products, and services, you can link all of those things directly on the meeting request. So if you have a particular product that you're interested in discussing with the company, just choose it, select it here, and then when they open your meeting request, they'll be able to quickly view the information on that particular product, just saving you time and making it a more efficient process to get you from prospect identification to potential meetings. All right, now let's take a look at the calendar. And I know, Wendy, you have lots to say about the calendar. Do you want to kick it off?
I do have lots to say about the calendar. I think that one of the key points is in this system, you'll be able to view what is happening at each time slot. So being able to mark availability based on some sessions that are taking place. I can tell you that within the next 24 to 48 hours, AdvaMed and the MedTech Conference is going to be making some pretty big announcements. So I'm pretty sure that there are some session times that people are going to want to block as unavailable. So I'm interested to see and have you demo exactly how you do that. How do you block off your calendar?
Sure. Well, first, let's start with how you unblock it, since everyone's calendar by default is going to be completely unavailable. So when you first log into the system, all of your time slots on the days of the different 3 days of partnering of the conference will be red, not available. And that's because the scheduling system just needs you to tell it when you are available, when you want to have meetings. So it's very, very important to keep your availability updated and let us know when it is that you would like to have meetings. You can either change individual time slots here or click the change availability button and, for example, open up your entire day to partnering, and then just click the save button. But
now, it's good that the default, I like the fact that the default is not available, because that probably eliminates the need for a lot of rescheduling that people have been mistakenly marked as available when they're actually not. So I like the fact that the system is set up to have the default as not available, requiring attendees to go in and actually think about when they want to meet with other companies.
Right. So we wanted to make sure that when you logged in, there weren't a bunch of assumptions made about when you wanted to have meetings. There are so many different things going on at the MedTech Conference, from all the sessions and the CEO panels to everything else, partnering and more. So we want to make sure that people are able to customize their calendars and have the highest degree of control possible. So it starts off as fully unavailable, and then everyone can make the changes. But to your question, Wendy, about how to find different panels and sessions and so forth, there is a track selector right here on the right side of your calendar, so you can view the different tracks happening at the MedTech Conference. And these items are updated regularly as well. So let's say that I'm interested in a panel session, and I want to look at what's going on Monday. Maybe I want to look at this particular session here, so you can open it, view description, see a little bit more information, more details. And if I want to add it, I'll just click Add Here. Now I'm going to get this question about whether or not I want to be available for partnering meetings during that time. So I'll click Yes if, I want to see this session, but also if I have to have a meeting during that time, I'm still open to that. Or no, if this session is a must attend for me and I really want to make sure that I don't get booked for anything else. And you can always view and edit this information at any time. If you decide that your schedule changes and you're no longer available during a specific time, you can delete those items off of your calendar in just a few seconds. Also,
So if someone is managing, if I've asked someone that I work with to manage my calendar and I've told them, like maybe I've printed out a brochure and circled some sessions and said, I want to go to this, I want to go to that. This is a way for me to incorporate not only my interest in the educational programming and time that I want to spend on the exhibit floor, but also, accommodate the scheduled meetings once those meetings start being scheduled. That seems like that's a powerful tool for anyone who might be managing my calendar.
Absolutely, Wendy. And we know that there are so many different parts of the conference experience beyond partnering, beyond programming. It's really the synthesis of all the great things that AdvaMed brings together. So we wanted to make it as easy as possible to do that. And if you want to see, just at a glance, all of the sessions and programming that are going on, you can click View All and see everything on particular days and open up these items and add them to your calendar very quickly. So it makes it a breeze for you to manage your entire calendar. And to your point, Wendy, if you're managing the calendar for one of your colleagues, no problem. Just click up here in the person selector, select the name of the colleague whose calendar you would like to edit, and then you can also drop new items onto their calendar and update their availability as needed.
That is amazing.
All right.
And
so
then I see that there's also a print and export button. So I can print this calendar once I have everything that starts populating. As I get closer to the conference, I can print it out, review it on the flight there, or what are my export options?
Sure. So if you would like to directly print your calendar, you can do either your individual or your entire company's calendar. And if you'd like to export or download your calendar, we have 5 different formats. So you can do PDFs of your own or your company's calendar, Excel versions of the same, or an ICS file. And that is an Outlook or Google Calendar, whatever your calendaring application is, file. You can download that and import the meetings directly into your calendar. Although, as we'll talk a little bit more about later, once meeting scheduling begins, all scheduled meetings will automatically appear on your Outlook calendar through our integration.
Oh, that's great. Less work.
Absolutely. And doesn't the calendar look nice? It's so polished.
It does.
Of course, once your meetings and everything get added, you will see locations here. So it will specifically indicate whether you're meeting on the exhibit floor, etc. So you'll know where to go at what time, and there won't be any questions about what your activity is and where you need to be while you're at the MedTech conference.
I love it.
Now, one quick note here, Wendy, based on experience from some of our other conferences, if you, for example, are having an exchange with a company in the message center and you write in a meeting request, let's meet at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, and the other company says that's great, but look, oh no, in my calendar, I'm not available at 2 p.m. on Tuesday. So whatever you have listed in your calendar is what the system is going to see. So you'll want to make sure that whatever times you're giving to people are just reflected in your partnering calendar so that you can be open at the right times and closed off at the right times as well.
So when does this really become important for me? Clearly, I'm going to be making decisions closer to the event on what sessions I want to attend and when I might want to be on the exhibit floor or at some other networking activity. When does the scheduling of the meetings actually occur?
Great question. So scheduling is going to start 2 weeks before the event. So that will be on September 10th. On that day, you will begin to see any of your accepted meetings with mutual availability, which we'll talk more about shortly. You'll begin to see all of those meetings appear on your calendar with the time and location.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. Now let's truck right over into the Message Center. And the Message Center, again, is this unified location where everyone from your company is able to access and view the meeting requests that your company is either sent or is receiving from other companies. So let's say, it looks like we got a new meeting request yesterday, Wendy, from the ZZZ MedTech company. For reference, this is a test company, yes, as we run a webinar. And so let's say I'm reviewing this company here. I click their company profile. I see what they've got to offer. Okay, this looks like it may be a compelling offer. I click the Accept Request button and write in a short message here. Here, I can easily change the participants from my organization. So if I, for example, say perhaps Wendy doesn't need to be on this meeting, but we do want to include Kim, then we can just click her here. And then Kim could join Wendy on this meeting. So if we click the accept button, now we see agree and accepted. This meeting is accepted. So once scheduling begins on September 10th, all of the meetings that are accepted with mutual availability will begin to be scheduled. But Willie, you may ask, what is mutual availability? So if you and all of the parties that are participating in the meeting from both companies don't have any overlapping calendar time slots where you're all available, you'll see a little red indicator over here and here on the message that will say no mutual availability. What that means is there's not a time that the system can see that's available between everyone participating in the company in the meeting. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but your best options there are to go back to your calendar, revisit your availability and see if there's any more time that you can open up. Or if you've absolutely maxed out your calendar and perhaps the problem is on the other company's side, you can use the reply only button to write a message to them and suggest, are there any times that you might be able to open? Let's see if we can coordinate and identify a specific time that way. After that, the scheduling program sweeps through on a regular basis every day to schedule all of those accepted meetings starting on September 10th.
Very powerful.
Absolutely. Also, a few more handy features in the Message Center. Up here at the top, this is sometimes overlooked, but a really great feature is the tags and tag delegate section. And what this allows you to do is a few things. One, let's say that you want to bring a particular meeting request to a colleague's attention. You want someone to review it, for example. So let's say that I want Erin to make sure that she looks over this MedTech meeting. So I'll just tag her. Click the little check mark here. I'll tag her in the meeting so that when Erin logs in and she sees the request that she's tagged in, she can say, oh, it looks like someone's put me on here. I should probably check out this meeting request and see if I should join this meeting. But in addition to tagging your colleagues, oh, go ahead, Wendy.
I was just going to say that is just so helpful for company coordination. For companies that are sending multiple delegates, it just is so helpful to be able to coordinate meeting activity this way.
Absolutely. And we understand that from everyone from the 1 or 2 person smaller companies up to huge multinational organizations, it can be challenging sometimes to work across people, across departments, across teams when everyone's coming from different units or different places. So using the tag section, you can tag by priority, you can tag a therapeutic area, a type of device. However your team is organizing itself in its meetings, you can use those things here to quickly identify your meeting request activity inside the Message Center. And after scheduling begins, if you want to get a quick at-a-glance look at your meeting activity, you can see for all of your meeting requests and the different types of meeting requests, how your company is progressing. Again, after scheduling begins, we will anticipate that these numbers will go up for all of the companies, but the dashboard offers a really great look at your key performance indicators there. There are also some handy advanced filters on the side as well that you can explore if you want to drill down to, for example, specific types of companies. Now, one thing, Wendy, that I know we talked about a few days ago was cases where you may have someone who is working with their boss or their vice president, and they don't want that person to get a bunch of emails for meeting requests that are coming into the system. So let's look at how you can edit your notifications. So if you go to the upper right-hand corner and click Notification Preferences, you'll be taken to your Notifications panel. So here on the left side, you'll see the email address that that's associated with your particular account. So this is the business email address that you've registered for the conference with. And here in the center, you have toggles for all of the different types of notifications. So by default, everyone in your company will receive an email whenever your company receives a new meeting request. If you want to switch that off or turn it off for a colleague, you can do so in just one simple click here. The one thing I will point out is this section, this option for iCalendar updates or the .ics file. We really recommend leaving this enabled the entire time. And that's because after scheduling begins, the integration function will automatically push those scheduled meetings onto your calendar. So if you're using Outlook, for example, they'll start to automatically appear. When the meetings get rescheduled or if a meeting gets canceled, it will show up at the new time or fall off of your calendar appropriately. So you'll want to make sure that you leave this one enabled so that you can get all of those updates as they're happening.
That's very helpful. Now that's an interesting point though. That's a reminder that a calendar can change at any time. So even if you are printing out a calendar before you leave for the conference, having that Outlook or whatever calendar function you're using, having that integration is really important and will help you manage any kind of meeting changes on site.
Absolutely, Wendy. And that's a great point because what we see sometimes is that people will print off a calendar for before they leave and they use it or they'll hand it to their boss, etc. But then meetings get rescheduled. You get to the MedTech conference and it turns out that someone's flight was delayed that you're supposed to be meeting with. Life happens and everyone understands that, so that's okay. But you want to make sure that you've got the latest and greatest information. So using the Outlook integration here or pulling up your latest calendar from the system will allow you to make sure that you're always seeing the most up-to-date schedule possible. And if you have, for example, an assistant or another colleague that you would like to have copied on all of your meeting requests, even if that person isn't participating in partnering with the full access registration at the event, you can enter in their information here. Just turn on the switch, enter in their email address, and then they'll be copied on all of your meeting locations. That can be really helpful if you have someone else who is working on managing your calendar.
That is great.
A couple of more quick highlights, and then we'll run through some quick tips. Up here at the top is a bookmarks section. So when you're in the search section and you're reviewing companies, market products, services, and so forth, if you click the star over here and give a gold star to these companies or to these items, then they will appear in your bookmarks section. So that makes it easy for you to see what's being bookmarked by people inside your company and even who selected those items. A lot of teams, Wendy, I've seen use this function to quickly kind of go through a list of companies. Maybe they want to look at something a little bit faster than even through the handy Excel download, so they'll use the favorites option here.
That's great.
And then one more thing to point out, and this is more for on-site, but there is also a logout button here. So if you're using a shared computer, you're at an airport or something like that, you can always log out of the system. But if you stay logged in, you will definitely always have quick access to the MedTech Connect platform. Wendy, are there any other features that you think we should talk about before we go into some of the partnering pro tips?
No, I think that this is really helpful. It's a lot of information to absorb, and I am happy that you will be joining us in Philadelphia in September, and we'll be available on site in case anyone has any problems. So thank you for doing that, Willie. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I can't wait for the conference and look forward to working with everyone on site.
All right, well, let's talk about some tips.
Sounds great. On to the partnering pro tip section. So after meetings get scheduled, which again, that's going to begin around September 10th, from time to time, you may have a meeting that needs to be rescheduled. So what will happen is that there will be a request reschedule button here. This is from an administrative view, so it won't look exactly like this, but there'll be a request reschedule button. And if you click that, then you can include some notes about, for example, meeting is currently scheduled on Monday. Can we shift to Tuesday afternoon? Or I have a company presentation on Wednesday. Can we do it at some other time? Include a quick note there because our scheduling team will use that information to try to find a new time for the meeting. If you don't include any information and there's still mutual availability, you'll get a new time, but it may not be the one that you had in mind. And unfortunately, this version of MedTech Connect does not include the ability to read minds, not yet. So we don't know what you're thinking. So please give us a preferred date and time, and then we can help you make your meeting schedule as optimal as possible. And this just reduces the need to have to reschedule.
Yeah, so that's an important distinction. So when a meeting is initially scheduled, it's done by the auto scheduler, but if it has to be rescheduled, it's done manually by the customer support team.
Yes, so when you see meetings being scheduled by our customer support team, we also do that periodically throughout the day to make sure that we're able to address people's meetings and get those scheduled quickly. But particularly on these pending reschedule meetings, we individually take a look at those to make sure that we're able to the extent possible, accommodate all of the requests. And make sure that whatever time that you're specifying that you would like is marked available in your handy dandy calendar. Because remember that the system sees the times there that are marked as available. So just be sure to keep your availability updated. Now let's talk a little bit more about mutual availability, and this will become more important as we get closer to on-site. But I mentioned earlier how within the Message Center, you may sometimes see a red no mutual availability icon. So that means there's no overlapping availability for all of the delegates participating in the meeting. Again, make sure, please, that your current availability is reflected in your partnering calendar so that the system can schedule you. And another variable to consider is the number of colleagues that you have participating in a meeting. The fewer people on the meeting, the fewer calendars to coordinate, the fewer possible time slots that can be blocked. So if you don't have to have 3 or 4 or 5 of your colleagues participating in a meeting, and you are able to just remove them as participants, that will make it easier to schedule those meetings or even to reschedule them down the road if you need to.
That's a great tip.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about some meeting request best practices to give kind of a quick recap here. So first is you'll want to polish your company profile, put in as much information as possible. You really want to make it robust to get your company's offering out there. Get to the subject of the matter, as we like to say on meeting requests. So make it a specific subject line that's targeted to that particular company. Interested in discussing your product X, Y, and Z, for example, rather than meeting request. Please do not submit a meeting request entitled meeting request. It's just the least likely to be answered statistically. You'll also want to make sure that you target the body of the meeting request itself. So take a few moments to read over that other company's profile. See what it is that makes you think that they might be a good match. And then extol all of those virtues to that other company and let them know the targeted benefits of partnering with you. You'll want to start requesting meetings early. So again, the system opens on August 13th. Beginning earlier simply makes it, gives you more of a time frame and more of a runway to get those meetings secured, begin sending your requests, reviewing requests from other companies. And if it's getting really close to the MedTech conference and you haven't heard back, don't panic, it happens. You can simply use the reply only button in your message center to write back to that company and just drop a short line saying something like, we're still very interested in meeting, would love to discuss product ABC, hope to be able to get some time with you during the MedTech conference.
So Willie, I see that we have a question. Let's answer it pretty quickly. Someone's asking, is it easy to copy their profile from LinkedIn into MedTech Connect so they don't have to type a lot of information?
Sure. So if you have, for example, let's break it into 2 buckets. First is your company profile, and then second is your delegate. So if you've got information on LinkedIn, you can just copy that info right over with a couple of Control C's for copy and Control V's for paste into the relevant fields into your company profile. And the same goes for your delegate profile as well.
Okay, so it is a manual process, but that's, at least you have a place to go and get started.
Yes. And then let's look at a couple of quick case studies. We won't dig into a ton of detail here, but the moral of this story is whether your company is, excuse me, large or small, private or public, it is a much better practice that will allow you to have more meetings if you log in early, check frequently for new companies, as we looked at that company registration date filter earlier in the advanced search. Tailor, 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 target, target, target. We can't emphasize that enough. And then following up on meeting requests shortly before the conference will help you to get more meetings at the MedTech conference.
So basically, if you are trying to secure a meeting with a company that's probably going to be very popular at the conference, your best bet of getting that meeting is to send that request early.
Absolutely, Wendy. Sending that request early with some of those heavy hitters and the larger players, send the request early and really be targeted and specific. You know, sending a meeting request that says, hi, would like to talk, really doesn't give that other company much information to go off of. And when you're reviewing requests yourself, you'll definitely want those other companies who are interested in you to be providing as much useful information as they can as well.
Good tip. Well, Willie, we have covered a ton of helpful information today. For everyone's convenience, we will send out a follow-up email with the recording of this webinar as well as our PowerPoint slides so that you'll be able to reference some of these tips later. And if you haven't registered for the MedTech conference yet, I encourage you to do so in the next few days to ensure that you receive your login credentials before we go live on August 13th. From the time you register, it takes about 3 days before you receive your login information. Willie, can you explain to people why it takes that long?
Sure, Wendy, and it's sometimes it's quite often it's faster than that, usually 1 to 3 business days. But the reason for that is privacy and security. We live in an age where it seems like every week there's there are privacy flaws and different things like that. So we want to make sure that for each company's individual business development and private information, that only the right people are getting access. So for example, if you sign up with a Yahoo or Gmail address and say that you're with company ABC, we want you to sign in with your company ABC email address so that we can see that there's a clear affiliation. So that time is used for us to do kind of a privacy and identity check there to make sure that only the right people end up in the company profile.
Okay. And then, so if you have already registered and you did use a personal email, no problem. You can email my colleague Kim at kim@medtechconference.org, and she will be happy to enter in a new email address for you so you'll have access to your company profile. So Willie, let's talk about time frame. I see that there are a lot of questions coming in on, what's the difference between when MedTech Connect goes live and when the meetings actually start getting scheduled. So the MedTech Connect will go live next week on August 13th. And once the system is launched, I encourage everyone to spend the next few weeks researching companies and sending meeting requests, making sure your profile is as robust as possible. And then in late August, this is when you really have to start thinking about the times that you want to block off on your calendar. We're about, as I mentioned earlier, we're about 24 to 48 hours away from making some huge plenary announcements that I think will be of interest to a lot of attendees. So by the end of the month, we want you to review the program agenda in MedTech Connect and block off the time slots that you don't want for meetings, and then mark all of your other times as available. And then my favorite feature, the auto scheduler, will run, as we talked about before, September 10th, and run each night leading up to the conference. And that's when the accepted meetings will be scheduled. So if you see meetings that are pending, you're going to try and make more time slots available so those meetings can be scheduled. And Willie, you can probably talk to this a little bit more in detail, but really the reason why the meetings do not get scheduled until about 2 weeks out is it's important to have that critical mass of accepted meetings for the auto scheduler to run, right?
Right, Wendy. So as opposed to scheduling meetings immediately all the time when you can end up with a bit of a hodgepodge calendar, holding off until 2 weeks or so before the conference allows the scheduler to be more efficient in reducing your walk time and helping you just have an overall smoother conference experience from meeting to meeting.
And that's great for me because it gives us time to make last-minute program updates if we need to, and then to have everybody checking in late August and early September and building out their session calendar at that point. That's the right time frame.
Yes. So just a quick recap here on maximizing your experience. I'll give the 5-second overview here. Robust company profile, keep your calendar availability updated, be targeted and specific when you're sending those messages, respond to your incoming requests regularly, and then you can also log back into the system after the conference has ended to continue follow-up with companies that you've already had a discussion with. But Wendy, I know we're about to run up on our time in 10 minutes or so, and we've got quite a few questions that have rolled in. So why don't we jump into the Q&A section?
Great.
Let's see. So we've talked about the scheduling already. We have one question here mentioning, will this exact PowerPoint be available as a resource post-webinar? Yes, so this PowerPoint deck, there will be a different version that's more expanded in case people were not able to see the recording itself, that has slide versions of all the things that I covered today, and that will be emailed out within a couple of days of the webinar.
Okay, and then I see a question, does this platform only find the companies that are attending the MedTech conference? Yes, this is specific to the MedTech conference. So the companies that you see in MedTech Connect will be registered for the conference. So there's not anyone who plans to register. It's actual registered companies and delegates.
Yes.
I see a question, are we able to get in the system early before it launches August 13th? No. You won't receive your login credentials until August 13th, and at that time you'll have plenty of time to populate your profile and start sending meeting requests before the meetings are scheduled on September 10th. I apologize as we're reading through some of these, just making sure that we're covering everything.
Yes, and I see a question here from Janet. When a meeting is requested with a company, will it automatically schedule a meeting with all delegates from that company? Great question. So no, when you send a meeting request to another company, if they accept that meeting, that person from that company is going to select the most appropriate parties, whether that's one person themselves or someone else, a colleague. But no, it does not automatically go to all delegates from the other company.
Okay. And then some people are continuing to ask just for the distinction between requested meetings, accepted meetings, and scheduled meetings. So beginning August 13th, you'll be able to send meeting requests, and you can accept those meeting requests at any time. But those accepted meetings will not actually be scheduled in the system, and you will get a notification that your meeting has been accepted, but you will not see a location and time for that meeting until September 10th.
Right. And we have a question here as well. Can the length of a meeting be changed? So in order to kind of provide a framework where the system can work well and efficiently for everyone, the meetings are all 30-minute meetings. But if, for example, you want to have a longer meeting with a particular company, what you can do is send a request to that company. Once they accept it, it can get scheduled. And once that other request is accepted, you can send another request, or that company can send a request back to you. There's also a function in the system that allows you to send a second request to a company. For example, if you need to meet with someone from a different department, but all of those meetings are going to be of a 30-minute duration.
So as I mentioned, when we are done with this webinar, we will be providing this deck as follow-up. So you will have access to the email addresses that we've provided as help. So you can reach out to Kim, you can reach out to me, call our general line and continue to ask these questions if we haven't had an opportunity to address them today. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. So, I do want to say, Willie, thank you so much for your help today. I'm incredibly excited about debuting the new MedTech Connect, and I appreciate you walking us through it so we can help our attendees secure the meetings they want while at the conference. An important distinction for everyone listening: if you have already registered for the conference and you have full access, you will receive your login credentials on August 13th. If you have not registered for the conference, you have to register for full access in order to get access to MedTech Connect. So just, if you want to be, in on day one and you haven't registered yet, the web address is www.themedtechconference.com, and on that site you can see our full program, confirmed speakers, our sponsors, and our exhibitors, and give me about 48 hours and some pretty impressive plenary speakers. So thank you everyone for joining us. I'm really excited. We had a record-breaking number of attendees today and RSVPs. So clearly there's interest in this tool and the amazing things that it'll be able to do for you and for your company and demonstrating your ROI on site. So thanks to everyone for joining us, and I hope you all have a great afternoon.
Thanks so much, Wendy, and we look forward to seeing everyone in September at the MedTech Conference.
Thanks, Willie. Thanks, everyone.